warm welcome from the broadcasting crew and myself for joining us on ERi-TV English News Broadcast. It's now exactly 10:30 p.m. Asmara time, and we are ready for a domestic and international report for the 13th of December 2025. Reporting live from headquarters in Asmara and inviting you to stay with us is Heaven Johan, your news anchor for this session. To begin with, I present you the major headlines. President Isaias Afwerki returns home after concluding working visit to Saudi Arabia. Activity assessment meeting conducted in the Gash Barka region. In our international report, Russian President Vladimir Putin held talks with his Turkish counterpart. And US approves sale of F-16 technology to Pakistan. In today's domestic report, President Isaias Afwerki returned home in the afternoon hours today, concluding a fruitful working visit to Saudi Arabia from 9 to 13 December, undertaken on the invitation of Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman. Earlier in the day, President Isaias and his delegation met with the President of the Saudi Ports Authority, Engineer Sulaiman bin Khalid Al Mansoura, as well as the Executive Manager and Chief Administrator of Jeddah Port. The hosts made a detailed presentation to the President and his delegation on the operational doctrine, scope of operations, technology and human capital deployed, as well as safety and service quality standards. They expressed the readiness of the Saudi Ports Authority to foster cooperation with Eritrea. They also stated that they attach strong importance to President Isaias Afwerki's visit to their facilities. President Isaias Afwerki underlined the importance of cultivating cooperation and synergy among the various ports in the Red Sea, focused on rendering services to the global market. He stressed that the framework must be based on complementarity rather than narrow competition and include investments in infrastructure, transfer of knowledge, as well as the emulation of best practices. President Isaias further emphasized that a tangible and broad roadmap of cooperation in these sectors should be developed through continuous contacts and consultations. President Isaias and his delegation also met with community and national association leaders in Jeddah and its environs. Topics discussed included domestic developments against the backdrop of global and regional challenges, current development policies and strategies of the Eritrean government, prospects and potential of bilateral partnership with Saudi Arabia, and the role and importance of strengthening Eritrean communities worldwide. The participants expressed their conviction to strengthen organizational capacity and enhance participation in national affairs. Moving on to the Gash Barka region, the Culture and Sports Department in the Gash Barka region conducted an activity assessment meeting for the year 2025 and discussed programs for 2026 on 10 and 11 December in Barantum. According to reports presented by the heads of culture and sports offices in the sub-zones, encouraging activities have been carried out in all types of sports. Indicating that the role of youth and students in enhancing sports activities and in the preservation of cultural heritage has been very significant, the heads of culture and sports offices urged active participation to ensure its transfer to future generations. The presidents of sports federations in the sub-zones, for their part, said that successful training of trainers programs were provided in which both genders took part, and the challenges encountered in sports development have been addressed in cooperation with partner institutions. Indicating that the Gash Barka region is gifted with various cultural heritage sites, some of which have been documented while others remain undocumented, Mr. Idris Saleh, Director General of Culture and Sports in the region, said initiatives are being taken to preserve them based on a scientific approach. Ambassador Mohammed Ali Hurui, Governor of the region, for his part, noting that sports development and the preservation of cultural heritage should not be left to specific government institutions alone, called for encouraging public participation. He also urged strengthening the programs of research and exploration being initiated by the Culture and Sports Department and for including professionals in the effort. In another news, the committee formed by members of the Ministries of Labour and Social Welfare and Health and the National Union of Eritrean Women in the subzones of Asab and Arata called for strengthening community participation in the effort to eradicate harmful practices in general and female genital mutilation in particular. At the event, which featured promotional activities and general knowledge competitions, area administrators, members of the assembly, religious leaders, as well as teachers and students were present. Briefings were also provided by health professionals on female genital mutilation and other harmful practices, as well as on hepatitis. They also called for active participation in controlling these practices. Indicating the negative consequences of underage marriage and female genital mutilation, including psychological harm to women, Ms. Halima Ali and Ms. Ruta Tekie, heads of the National Union of Eritrean Women branch in the subzones of Asab and Arata, respectively, called for active participation of all stakeholders in the effort to eradicate harmful practices. Noting that the practice of harmful traditions is punishable by law, Mr. Burhana Kidane, administrator of Asab subzone, and Mr. Burhana Mazgaba, administrator of Arata subzone, stressed the significance of community participation in eradicating such practices. Do stay tuned, dear viewers, for we shall be back with the international news after the short break. Welcome back. Now, the global arena, Russian President Vladimir Putin held talks with Turkish counterpart Tayyip Erdogan on the sidelines of a forum in Turkmenistan. The bilateral discussion took place on the sidelines of the regional peace summit held in the capital Ashgabat. The two leaders announced in the meeting that they will work to expand their countries' economic, diplomatic, political and security ties. It was also reported that the two leaders discussed the issue of the war in Ukraine and security in the Middle East region. Meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin also met with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on the occasion and held talks focused on strengthening strategic relations. The two leaders clarified in the meeting that they will actively work to implement the agreements previously reached between their countries. In another news, the United States has approved the sale of technology and support for Pakistan's F-16 fighter jets, the Pakistani website Dawn has reported. The proposed sale aims to modernize Pakistan's F-16 fleet and address operational safety concerns, the report said, citing a letter from the U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency to Congress. The sale will support the foreign policy and national security objectives of the United States by allowing Pakistan to retain interoperability with U.S. and partner forces in ongoing counter-terrorism efforts and in preparation for future contingency operations, the agency's letter stated. The estimated value of the sale is $686 million. The deal also provides for technical and logistics support, services, studies and surveys. Pakistan had requested upgrades to its F-16 fleet in 2021, but Washington delayed its response amid strained relations then, according to the report. In today's final report, Indian exports hit a record high in the first half of the current financial year, according to official data. Exports rose 5.86% year-over-year in April to September to a record $418.91 billion, the Commerce Ministry of the country stated. India's export performance was strongly supported by export destinations, including the US, United Arab Emirates, China, Spain and Hong Kong, each registering robust growth during April-September 2025 as compared to same period last year, the ministry statement added. The United States imposed 50% tariffs on India in August, half of which was punitive levies for New Delhi's purchase of Russian oil. India has dismissed criticism over its Russian oil imports and maintains that its energy policy is driven by national interests. New Delhi is negotiating deals with nearly a dozen countries or trade blocs, including the United States and the European Union. With this, we conclude our domestic and international reports for this session. viewers, before we finalize, I present you the major headlines once more. President Isaias Afwerki returns home after concluding working visit to Saudi Arabia. Activity assessment meeting conducted in the Gash Barka region. Russian President Vladimir Putin held talks with his Turkish counterpart. And US approves sale of F-16 technology to Pakistan. This was The World on Saturday with ERi-TV English News broadcast. Dear viewers, from all of us here, thank you for watching. Join us again on our tomorrow's broadcast. Until then, stay well.